I thought I was living a normal marriage until one day, while I was cleaning, my stepson and his friend suddenly showed up at the house. The silence filled the room as I bent over to wipe down the big white couches. Then the door suddenly slammed open. I jumped for a second, still hearing the vacuum running, so I couldn't immediately see who it was. When I turned my head, I saw my stepson Liam and his friend, who was dark-skinned and athletic, standing in the doorway. Liam, my 19-year-old stepson, looked nothing like his father. Unlike his dad's strict demeanor, Liam's young face always had a touch of mischief. His hair was dark brown and his skin looked tanned, like it had been kissed by the sun. His friend, Noah, had a similarly relaxed energy, dressed a little sloppy but exuding that carefree vibe that came with youth. "Mom." Liam's voice was surprised but carried a soft smile. "What are you doing here at this time?" Liam's voice snapped me back to reality. Without realizing it, I turned off the vacuum and stood up. The strap of my tank top had slipped off my shoulder, and as I noticed, I quickly tried to adjust it. But when I felt Noah's gaze on me, I suddenly grew a little embarrassed. I could feel my cheeks burning. "I was just cleaning," I said, trying to hide the surprise in my voice. "Why are you guys here so early? Aren't you supposed to be at school?" Liam ran a hand through his hair, laughing casually. "We left early today. Wanted to hang out with Noah, but I didn't expect to catch you like this." Noah stepped forward slightly, giving me a faint smile as his eyes quickly scanned me. I felt a bit uneasy, but at the same time, that look wrapped around me like a strange curiosity. Liam's presence next to him was more innocent, but the depth in Noah's gaze, as if there were things left unsaid, made me feel a little uncomfortable. Liam shrugged and said with a casual tone, as if it was nothing, "I knew I'd find you cleaning when I got home, but I didn't expect you to look this good." His eyes sparkled with a playful gleam. Noah, while taking off his shoes, interjected with a surprised smile. "Liam, is your mom really 42? He asked, raising his eyebrows. In the brief silence, I heard Liam chuckle lightly. "Yeah, Noah, why? Does she look old to you?" Noah's eyes roamed over me quickly before he replied, "Definitely not. You look so young and really attractive." His voice carried a sincere and soft warmth. At that moment, I became aware of the thin fabric of my top and the leggings, accentuating my body's curves. With a shy shrug of my shoulder, I said, "Thanks," an involuntary smile forming on my face. Liam and Noah went to the living room and turned on the PlayStation, lounging on the couch as they got lost in the game. Seeing this as an opportunity, I continued tidying up the rest of the living room. I grabbed my dust rag and started cleaning around the TV. As I wiped the sides of the television, I glanced out of the corner of my eye and realized that Liam and Noah were watching me. At first, I felt a bit uncomfortable, but deep inside, I couldn't deny that I liked the attention. I suddenly felt younger, more attractive, but not wanting to dwell on it too much, I pulled myself together and went to the kitchen. After a while, Liam came into the kitchen under the pretense of wanting coffee. "Can you make us iced coffee?" he asked, his eyes innocent. At that moment, I had climbed up on a chair to clean the inside of the kitchen cabinets, leaning forward slightly. The shift in the atmosphere was subtle but undeniable. As I glanced over my shoulder, Liam's eyes were fixed on me, and an unspoken tension lingered between us. I looked up and answered, "Of course, I'll make it right away." But I couldn't help but notice Liam's gaze lingering on me. The depth and meaning in his eyes made my heart race for a moment. I made the coffee and returned to the living room. Liam and Noah were still playing their game. I handed them their iced coffees and sat down next to them, feeling a warmth in being close to them. Noah, chatty as usual, started talking about strategies in the game, and Liam joined in. However, Noah's phone rang. It was his family calling. "I have to go," he said quickly, standing up. Liam shrugged lightly. "No worries. You'll come by again later," he said. After Noah left in a hurry, the living room fell into silence, leaving just Liam and me. The sound of the game console hummed softly in the background as Liam turned to me with a slight smile. "You've got a different kind of energy today," he said, his voice warm and unmistakably focused. In that moment, I felt the atmosphere shift, like the air in the room had grown heavier somehow. Liam broke the silence with a deep breath, his face carrying a playful grin. "It's probably for the best that Noah left," he said, his eyes locked on mine, unwavering. "I've been wanting to spend some time alone with you since you married my dad, but the chance never really came up." His words caught me completely off guard. I realized I was gripping my coffee mug a little too tightly. I couldn't quite grasp what he was trying to say. Or maybe I didn't want to. My eyes met his for a moment, but then I quickly looked away. "Why would you want something like that?" I asked, my voice tinged with nervousness. Liam shrugged lightly, leaning a bit closer on the couch. His expression had shifted to something more serious, and combined with his confident posture, it left me momentarily breathless. "Because I know my dad doesn't make you happy," he said. "When I look at you, it's like you're searching for something else, like you're not getting the attention you deserve." My heart started pounding in my chest. Hearing those words felt both mortifying and incredibly tempting. I didn't want Liam to notice how flustered I was, but the slight heat rising to my cheeks betrayed me. "Liam, you shouldn't be saying things like that," I managed to reply, my voice trembling slightly. But as I looked at him, I couldn't deny the flicker of excitement that his forbidden words ignited within me. Liam stayed quiet for a moment, his eyes locked onto mine. "You're right," he said slowly, his voice dropping to a deeper tone. "Maybe I shouldn't, but it's the truth, and I felt like I had to say it." The space between us had almost completely disappeared. He was so close now that I could feel his breath. He set his coffee mug aside and leaned in toward me. "This coffee is really good," he said, his voice carrying a warmth that made me feel completely defenseless. Then, after a brief pause, he gently pressed his lips to my cheek. A wave of shock mixed with warmth spread through my entire body. I couldn't move. No, I didn't move even if I wanted to. The magic of the moment had me completely frozen. Liam didn't pull back. His eyes stayed locked on mine. When his lips moved toward me again, I couldn't summon the strength to stop him. I didn't resist. I kissed him back, softly yet deeply. Time felt like it had stopped, balancing on the edge of something forbidden. My heart pounded. a mix of fear and intense excitement surging through me. Liam's warmth, his closeness, and the sincerity in his eyes pulled me into a complexity I had never felt before. Yet, deep down, a voice inside reminded me this wasn't right. When our lips finally parted, I was breathless, my thoughts scrambled. Liam, this, I began, but the words died in my throat. He gently interrupted, his voice calm but firm. I know, but I can't hide how I feel, and I think you feel something for me too. His words terrified me, yet they also drew me in like a magnet. I dropped my gaze to the floor, hoping the chaos in my mind would somehow untangle itself. But at the same time, Liam's presence broke through every boundary, every rational thought I had left. Liam stepped back slightly, taking a deep breath. Determination flickered in his eyes. Suddenly, he straightened and moved closer again, step by step, watching every little movement I made. His hand rested on my waist, soft yet assertive, as if testing the last barriers I had left. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My heart raced wildly in my chest. When our eyes locked again, the intensity of the moment became impossible to ignore. Liam pulled me just a little closer, and this time his lips met mine with deeper, more passionate urgency. My body responded instinctively to his warmth, and every sound, every thought in my mind faded into nothingness. As my mind grew hazier, I felt myself surrendering completely. Then everything shifted so suddenly it was as if the room had spun around me. I was left disoriented, sitting on the same couch, still in the clothes I had been cleaning in earlier. My mind raced to process what had just happened, questioning every second. Liam's warmth still lingered on my skin, but the storm of emotions inside me was impossible to ignore. My thoughts spiraled. What had really happened? How much of it was real? And most importantly, when my husband got home, would anything ever go back to how it was before? How could we possibly return to normal? I quickly stood and headed for the shower. The hot water stung my skin as I tried to wash away the confusion clouding my mind. But deep down, something inside me felt on the verge of breaking. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened, about what it meant, and about the price I would have to pay for it all. I always believed I had control over many aspects of my life: loneliness, heartbreak, even desires. But that day, I realized everything had slipped beyond my grasp. I must admit, this story marks the beginning of the most complicated and forbidden moments of my life. As I recount what happened, my breath quickens and my heart races. Because this isn't just a confession, it's the story of how a woman can lose herself in loneliness, passion, and tangled emotions. I am 50 years old, and people are often surprised when they hear my age. It has been 10 years since I divorced Andrew. We separated because he was unfaithful, and to this day I still don't understand why. I've always been a well-groomed, elegant woman who enjoys the attention of others, But despite the admiration, the last decade of solitude has left a deep void in me. No matter how strong I appear, when I lie in bed at night, the emptiness is impossible to ignore. That morning, I was preparing to meet my friend Olivia for coffee. Like me, Olivia is also divorced, an elegant woman trying to navigate life after separation. I chose a fitted skirt that showed off my toned legs and paired it with a soft pastel blouse. As I looked at my reflection in the mirror, I smiled faintly. "I'm still attractive," I murmured. It was a truth I needed to remind myself of. When I met Olivia at the cafe, our conversation, as always, revolved around old memories and the gaps in our lives. We talked about the silence in our homes and the disappointments in relationships. As Olivia spoke animatedly, my gaze drifted outside for a moment. A familiar face caught my eye. It was my nephew, Ethan. Ethan is 26, full of life and a cheerful young man. Although we don't see each other often, he has always been respectful and affectionate towards me. But that day, Ethan wasn't alone. Standing next to him was someone who instantly captured my attention. Tall, broad-shouldered, and with an undeniable presence, this man was impossible to ignore. Later, I would learn his name, Lucas. At 29, Ethan's friend Lucas wasn't just striking in appearance. He had an aura that lingered, even after he was gone. When Lucas's eyes briefly met mine, I felt my heart quicken. It was a feeling I couldn't admit to myself, but something inside me had stirred. When Ethan came over to say hello, there was a brief exchange of greetings. "Ava, if you ever need anything, just let me know," he said with his usual easygoing charm. His words made me smile faintly, but I couldn't ignore the way Lucas looked at me. Those weren't just polite glances. There was something more in them. Still, I chose not to dwell on it in the moment. When I returned home, I found a large box sitting at my doorstep. It was the entertainment system I had ordered online the previous week. But as I took in its size, I realized there was no way I could set it up alone. At first, I felt a pang of disappointment. Then I remembered Ethan's words, "Let me know." Reaching for my phone, I dialed his number. When he answered, I found out that Lucas was with him. "We'll come together," Ethan said. A strange wave of excitement surged inside me. If I said I didn't want to see Lucas again, I'd be lying to myself. When the doorbell rang, my heart was already racing. Ethan entered with his usual relaxed demeanor. But Lucas? The moment he stepped through the door, his eyes locked onto mine. His presence shifted the atmosphere in the room, filling it with a quiet tension and an inexplicable pull. Those eyes, those deep hazel eyes, captured me and wouldn't let go. At that moment, I had no idea how an ordinary day was about to spiral out of my control. But now, I know everything began with those eyes. Before this story gets even crazier, don't forget to follow for more updates. Your support through comments and likes means so much. As Ethan and Lucas started setting up the TV, I stood back and watched them. Ethan, as always, was energetic and easygoing, handling the setup with his usual carefree attitude. Lucas, on the other hand, was quiet and focused, working with precision. But every time our eyes met, I felt something resonate in that silence, an unexplainable tension, maybe even a pull I was trying hard to ignore. I was still wearing the outfit I had chosen for coffee earlier, a fitted skirt that left my legs exposed, and a light flowing blouse. I've always enjoyed looking my best, but that day, as I noticed Lucas's gaze lingering on me, I became even more aware of my outfit. Perhaps that awareness sparked an excitement I was trying to suppress. At one point during the setup, Lucas reached out to hand me a cable, and our hands accidentally brushed. We both instinctively pulled back, but for a moment, it felt like a spark had ignited in the air. Lucas smiled faintly. "Sorry, that wasn't intentional," he said. His voice was calm and polite, but the slight curve of his lips stirred something inside me. As the setup slowly progressed, I couldn't help but thank them warmly. "Thank you so much, both of you. Living alone, it's hard to handle things like this." Lucas gave a small smile, his calm and charismatic demeanor giving weight to every word. "Don't hesitate to call us for things like this," he said, his tone sincere yet carrying something deeper. Turning to Ethan, I added, "Once it's all set up, I'm inviting you both to the first movie night. You have to come." Ethan immediately grinned. "That sounds great. Movie nights are always fun." Lucas, however, simply nodded with a small smile, but the warmth in his eyes was entirely focused on me. "I'll make you both some coffee so you can take a break," I said, heading to the kitchen. As I started the coffee machine, I heard the sound of footsteps behind me. Turning around, I saw Lucas standing at the doorway. His arms were loosely crossed in front of him, and though he hadn't fully stepped into the room, his presence filled the entire kitchen. His gaze lingered for a moment on the hem of my skirt, the soft fabric of my blouse skimming my shoulders, before quickly meeting my eyes again. The weight of his glance was impossible to ignore. "I just wanted to thank you," he said, his voice calm but carrying a hint of warmth. In that moment, I couldn't help but notice how striking he was. His broad shoulders, muscular arms, and the quiet confidence in his expression. His mere presence stirred something inside me. Smiling slightly, I said, "No need to thank me. If anything, I've made more work for you by choosing such a massive TV." Lucas chuckled softly and leaned against the table, his large hands gripping the edge as though asserting his presence over the space. "You seem happy with your choice," he said, his eyes briefly flicking down my body before returning to my face. As I adjusted my hair, I replied, "Yes. When you live alone, small pleasures like this become more important." I could feel him watching me intently, his gaze moving over me like a silent compliment. It was both unsettling and oddly thrilling. Lucas's voice dropped slightly, becoming almost intimate. "Loneliness isn't always a bad thing, but sometimes when you have someone to share it with, everything feels more meaningful." The way he said it made me realize he wasn't just sharing a thought. He was hinting at something much deeper. My eyes involuntarily drifted to his broad frame and slightly muscular arms. He was so self-assured and captivating that for a few seconds I didn't even know what to say. Gripping the coffee mugs tightly, I tried to collect myself. "I suppose you're right," I said, but the slight tremor in my voice betrayed me. Lucas straightened up from the table and took a step closer. Now he was so near I could feel the warmth of his breath. Looking straight into my eyes, he said, "If you ever want to test out this system, invite Ethan and me over." His words sounded like a casual suggestion, but the tone of his voice and the look in his eyes told a much deeper story. Just then, Ethan's voice called from the living room. "Lucas, can you pass me the cable?" Lucas hesitated for a few seconds before giving a slight nod. "I'll be right there," he said. But during those seconds, the intense energy lingering between us filled the air in the kitchen. As he walked out, his commanding presence lingered behind, leaving me to grapple with the undeniable connection that moment had revealed. We drank our coffees together, chatting for a few minutes. Lucas and Ethan eventually finished setting up the system, and I thanked them both sincerely. Ethan, ever the playful one, joked, "Enjoy it, Ava," while Lucas, with a polite smile, added, "If you need anything else, let us know." When our eyes met one last time before they left, the energy between us remained palpable, fresh, and unshakable. After they left, a silence settled over the house. The new TV and sound system stood proudly in front of me, but my mind was still caught on Lucas. His calm yet charismatic demeanor, his gentle touches, and his powerful presence continued to pull me toward him. Later, as I cleaned up the coffee cups in the kitchen, something on the table caught my eye. A small flower accompanied by a folded piece of paper. My heart raced as I picked it up and opened the note, revealing Lucas's neat handwriting. "If you ever need anything, you can call me, Lucas." His phone number was written just below. This small but meaningful gesture set my heart racing. This man truly knew how to surprise me. That evening, I found myself sitting in front of the new TV, my phone in hand, staring at Lucas's number. Should I text him or just ignore it? The emotions inside me were spinning, threatening to override my logic. I couldn't resist any longer. My fingers moved over the screen and I sent a short message. "Lucas, thank you for the flower you left today. That was very thoughtful of you. If you're free, would you like to join me for coffee or wine while we test out the system?" The moment I hit send, my heart pounded so hard it felt like it might leap out of my chest. It didn't take long for a response to arrive. My phone buzzed and his reply lit up the screen. "That's a wonderful idea, Ava. I'm bringing a bottle of wine over." When Lucas appeared at my door with a bottle of red wine in hand, his confidence once again left me speechless. The way he paid attention to the little details, his thoughtful nature, it all made him stand out. "A good wine is essential for a proper system test," he said with a faint smile. Lucas raised his glass slightly and added, "Only for special people." The depth in his eyes took my breath away. This man wasn't just kind. Somehow, with every move he made, he filled a part of the emptiness inside me. We turned on the television and began testing the music system, but the energy between us was so intense that neither of us was really paying attention to the music or the screen. Our conversations grew deeper, and as Lucas leaned slightly closer to me, the space between us seemed to shrink. Our body language, the eye contact, everything was becoming more and more charged. "Ava," Lucas said, his voice soft yet resolute, "I didn't come here tonight just to try the wine. I want to get to know you better." Those words brought all my feelings rushing to the surface. I couldn't tear my eyes away from his. That moment made it clear. The connection between us was shifting into something entirely different. What we chose to do with this growing tension was now completely up to us. As I felt the intensity of Lucas's gaze, something inside me stirred. I slowly set my wine glass down on the coffee table and stood up. My hand reached for the straps of my dress, and I could hear his breath quicken. I took a step toward him and smiled softly. "If you really want to get to know someone," I said, my voice trembling slightly, almost like a whisper, "getting closer is essential." As the straps of my dress slipped from my shoulders and cascaded to the floor, I could see the admiration in Lucas's eyes.